right. All right, let's see. This seems to be working. Can everyone hear me? All right, cool. I was told to stay within the 20-minute limit because obviously it's a packed evening. I'll try to do that. I might speak very quickly. If somebody thinks it's too fast, then just wave. To my colleagues over there, make photos. We need them for the blog post. Before we start, and because this video is very long and this goes on for a while, I want to take a quick moment to appreciate what's happening here. You already said some of this, but I find it utterly amazing that Upfront is happening for the 70th time. That number is so large I can't even pronounce it. To me, this meetup is very important because 5 years ago in the 5th floor, back then, I gave the very first talk, like public speaking of my career, and I'll always remember that you, I guess you organized it back then as well, but I didn't know you back then, provided a safe space that I felt comfortable in doing this, and that's super important, and I'm just super delighted that Upfront is still happening, although I haven't been in a while, but this will change in the future. Another thing, because when I'm sitting in the audience and someone is speaking who is very closely related to a company, I'm always suspicious if this it turns into a we're hiring disguised as a talk. This is not the case here. We're not hiring, just to say it up front. All right. Then I guess we can get going. I see a lot of familiar faces, but I guess most of you don't know me. I'm Harry, and this was 21 years ago. This was the day, this was Christmas Eve in 1995, and this was the day that I got my first computer. And like you can see, it's a Mac. That's remarkable because back then, for the younger ones among us, Macs weren't popular. Like nobody had one because they were A, crazy expensive, and B, there was no software for them. So there was very much like machines for professionals, and I got a second-hand one for Christmas, and I only found out years later why that was the case. My dad is actually over there; he knows. But the reason behind that was that my parents didn't want me to play violent video games. So while my friends played Resident Evil, I played Photoshop 1.0 and Quark Express and MacDraw Pro and stuff like that. While I was annoyed at the time, I'm super thankful for that because on this day, basically the journey started that led me here. So 21 years later, it looks like this. Not too much has changed. In the meantime, I studied computer science and media and I guess other people call me a developer. I spend most of my time writing code, but as most developers in the room know, you always do lots of other stuff as well. So it's yeah, I don't know what my job description is, but I write code. I'll turn this so I can see which slide is coming up. I worked at 3 companies before founding my own that some of you might know. Elf Freunde with Oliver Zein, who's also over there. He was a developer there and I was an intern. Then we both joined in Spiekermann, worked there for 4 years, back when the digital team there was like 5 people. And then I worked a year at a Colorbright. That was in 2015. And while being there at a Colorbright, a couple of friends of mine and or rather former colleagues of mine back then, we sort of had this idea of, can we do this ourselves? Can we found a company? And in summer, we started meeting at Beta House, as some of you might recognize on the left, and sort of meeting before work. We were all fully employed, meeting before work at 8 a.m., sort of trying to get this off the ground, meeting during lunchtime, meeting after work, at somebody's home, building our website or with potential clients. And it took us 6 months to actually get to this point, which on this day, shortly before Christmas, we signed all the documents at a notary to have a proper company. And that was super insanely scary at the time. But we sort of approached all of this with an ironic twist. What you can see on the left is a very important piece of paper because we had basically a lottery who's going to be the CEO. And it turned out to be this guy, but that was pure coincidence. Um, and yeah, it took us a while. Back then, this was one of our first tweets. The company is called diesdas.digital. Some like the Germans will understand this. It's also kind of self-ironic. If it's digital, we're going to do it. That's basically what it means. It's a well, we started with this sentence: does the world need another digital agency founded by some tech dudes? We didn't know. We thought, okay, this is ours. We're going to give it our best shot. And we're going to do design, development, a bit of service design, maybe branding, sort of these sort of things, because we all worked in agencies before, and that's what we're good at. Sometime later, I was building a presentation for a talk, and I sort of thought about this while we had already worked in this constellation for 2 months or so, and I thought about this construct that we made, this company. What is this? What are we doing here? And I formulated sort of by accident, like something that you could call a manifesto, but that word is a bit too large, so maybe call it some values, but that's also a super large word. I don't know. It could be a mission statement, but same problem. But you get what I mean. And we sort of came from this perspective that we treat this as an experiment. We haven't it all figured out. We're treating this as something that we're also not sure yet what it is, but we're going to see where it takes us and whether it's possible. And bear with me, this slide is super intense because it's very condensed. We wanted to run a modern digital studio that is based on open-mindedness and curiosity, guided by honesty and transparency, with a pragmatic mindset yet thorough execution, leaving egos but not brains at the door, providing a bullshit-free, tolerant and inclusive working environment while taking ourselves not too seriously and being profitable. That was sort of how we wanted to do this, and that is still the slide that comes up every time, and that we're holding ourselves sort of responsible to do it like that. When we started, it looked like this. Lawrence is really, really sad and lonely on this picture. We found office space with a bigger agency called Häberlein and whatever Maurer. They do PR and stuff, and they gave us 4 desks. Initially, only 3 even, and from there, we started in January. We were sitting there. We had 1 project, and we sort of just thought, okay, we'll see. We'll figure this out. Since then, a lot of stuff has happened. There's more stuff on the tables now, and there are more tables. Nicholas, developer, decided to join us full-time. Sharon is our first full employee, which was rather scary as well. Not because of Sharon, but because employing somebody is really difficult in Germany. I'm not going to comment on this one. Not everything is all roses all the time. Stuff is difficult. We're also just figuring this out every day. It's very much improvising. And especially the financial situation is often tricky because we're self-funded and we don't have any outside money. We're not a startup, we're an actual company. How crazy is that? These people, Lawrence and Max, are also here, so if you have questions, because we can't have questions after the talks, just grab them or me, and we're happy to answer them. There is a recording of this talk, right? Okay, I'm going to skip through the next slide really quickly, because there are some clients that nobody can see. We did a couple of projects over the course of this year. I guess it's not too bad. I guess some of them, whatever. With these companies, we're very fortunate that all of this happened. We also don't really have an idea how or why we got all of this, but it sort of happened, and we'll get to that later. Whenever we talk to people, or most of the time, there's some frequently asked questions that most people ask. So I'm just going to get these out of the way so we can focus on more interesting stuff later. First of all, are you working crazy hours? Are we like super busy all the time, working on weekends, working late? Never. It's possible to do this kind of stuff if you go freelance or if you found a company, to not work crazy hours, not do night shifts, because sleep is actually really important. Are we super stressed all the time? Not at all. For me, that was one of the big revelations of this, that I thought going into this that it would become immensely stressful. But it turned out to be quite relaxing because there are fewer people having expectations, and you just make it up, and whatever somebody does, it's fine, sort of. There are no people around you that in some weird hierarchy are above you that have certain expectations. All of that just doesn't exist, which is a tremendous liberty. Where did the initial money come from? From our own pockets. It wasn't actually that much. I think we founded this with 12,000 euros, which is obviously a lot, but not crazy amounts of money. At some point in January, I think I had 200 euros left on my bank account, which was slightly scary, but we always had confidence that it's going to work out in the end. Does that mean, because money is obviously a thing, do we need to accept every project that we get? No, we've been very fortunate to get a lot of projects, and we can sort of choose what we want to work on, which is interesting. Nobody of us thought this would happen, and we're still sort of not. We don't think it's going to continue like that. Let's put it like that. Did anything go super wrong so far? Because people are always asking, did we fail in some catastrophic way and learned a lot? No, we didn't, because we prepared really well, and of course, stuff happened that we're not proud of, like spending 2 months on accounting that just should have been done by a professional. But like in the grand scheme of things, everything was fine, because also all of this stuff has been done before. It's not rocket science. It's tricky, but it's manageable. Startups are cool, yeah, sure, but like I said, we don't consider ourselves to be a startup. We are very much trying to build a sustainable company, which is somehow against what other people are doing, but that doesn't interfere with us. Like, if other people want to go down the startup route and get investors and do all of that, that's cool. We don't have anything against that, but it's not how we want to run it. What's our exit strategy and what's your growth strategy and all of that kind of stuff? That doesn't exist. We're here to stay. Are we getting rich? No, definitely not. And is it still worth it? Yes, it's been quite a ride so far in these 10 months. But is all of this super difficult? Well, at times, sometimes more than in other times. I'll share 5 learnings with a bit of story that I feel are something that I couldn't have predicted before. That aren't groundbreakingly new things or something, but it's still points that we find interesting. The first one being, take your time when you make important decisions and trust your gut feeling. At least that's true for me. I don't know if it's true for everyone. There are also these people that write like pro and contra lists and decide everything very rationally. I'm not that kind of person. I decide important things very much from an emotional perspective, and if I feel ready to do something, and if all of this told me anything, then that you can't rush or force important decisions. And going freelance, being your own boss, founding a company is obviously an important decision. We wanted to found that company 1 year earlier already in 2014, and we were doing like the same meetings and the same talks, and wouldn't it be so great if we did this? And in the end, in 2014, 1 year earlier, we decided we're not quite ready yet. For me, I very much had the feeling I'm not ready yet to do this. I got to learn more and sort of absorb more knowledge and grow before I can take this step. And then back then, we decided, okay, then we can't rush it, we can't force it, let's not do it. And then a year later, luckily, we came back together and we're ready to take this step. But I'm saying this is obviously sort of a truism, but I'm saying this because lots of the startup mentality is built on this more quickly, harder, better, faster, stronger, earlier. You got to found your own thing when being 22. And this is a counter narrative. You can also do this differently and make these important decisions when you feel like it and when you feel ready. The second one is good preparation is half the battle. Like I said, it took us half a year to get to the point of signing something. I feel that is quite a long time. In hindsight, definitely. But we needed that time because we knew we were headed into complicated territory. There was lots of stuff that we didn't know, how to do accounting, how to do all the legal aspects, and we just decided we're going to take this a bit slower and prepare really well, because looking at our financial situation, we had one shot of making this work. Not implying that there was something catastrophic would have happened if we messed this up. I mean, we're all in Berlin after all, and we're doing a job that is high in demand. So I guess we would have been fine, but it would have taken a long time until we would have the money again to do something like that and found a company. So we felt, okay, we have one shot of making this work, and so we better prepare very well. We had countless meetings with a lawyer. We had countless meetings with a tax accountant. Which type of company you found is immensely important in Germany. There's like 8 different scenarios that you can go for, and it's really like it's a type of knowledge and material that you never knew would be interesting, but suddenly when it concerns yourself, it is all interesting, and you absorb it all. And we needed that time to prepare. Yes, we take risks, but we take calculated risks. We have a lot of internal discussions. We fight a lot. And we just feel as a company, we're cautious, but we're not afraid. And that's, I think, is a good point of view to approach complex situations. That you're aware of the complexity and aware that it could go wrong, and you calculate the odds, and then you make a decision, an informed decision. And from the outside, this can look effortless, but it's really quite difficult, and it takes a considerable amount of time to prepare for complex situations. The third one, I have to hurry, I got 4 minutes left. Your required skill set is not what you think it is. We went into this and thought, okay, we're good designers, we're good developers, we're going to make this work, right? You sell your designs, you sell your code, it's going to be fine. When we actually started this, we realized, okay, there's a whole new skill set sitting below. Because you can't sell any design or development if you can't get any projects. So that's a new business stuff. The new business stuff, if you get projects, they don't help you much if you're not profitable. So you got to calculate your hourly rate and like find a way to make money, or you have investors. And well, then when you make money, obviously there needs to be some accounting, because we're in Germany. Accounting is tremendously important, and even though we have a tax accountant, it still takes one of us 5 days a month just sorting bills and scanning them all and stuff. So this is a topic. And then obviously to juggle all of these things, time management is really important. How do you structure your day? How are you efficient? When do you respond to emails? When do you meet clients? How do you find time to do actual coding or designing? That's tremendously difficult. And then you realize this is not you haven't reached the bottom yet, because there's a whole level of soft skills that nobody tells you about. Like these are pretty much, these are foreseeable, that's easy. But this stuff is very hard to learn upfront. Because you're also not aware of the fact that you need this. Discipline is incredibly important, because obviously we're trusting each other with a lot of responsibility, because we all depend on each other, founding it with 4 people. So discipline is important, and trust among the people. Communication is important. How do you approach new clients? How do you write emails? Writing is a tremendously underestimated soft skill that is super important, more than you think, especially moving to remote work and organizing everything through Slack and the likes. And then the leadership topic is interesting, because suddenly you're employing somebody and they're sitting there looking at you and they want work for every day. And how do you prepare for that? It's tough. And most people, I guess, suck in the beginning, and it's hard to see it not really working at times. And then we still haven't reached the bottom yet, because below all of this is empathy. And if you're not empathetic to other people's situations, then all of the other stuff is irrelevant. Because the business that we're doing is putting out, like, assuming the perspective of other people, working in their situation, in their context. And if you don't have empathy for the people you're working with, be it employees or be it clients, then you can be the best designer, but you're not going to be successful. Which leads us to the 4th point, and now I really got to speed up. Success never happens accidentally or overnight or suddenly. most people think success looks like this, that you're doing something and suddenly a recruiter from Google calls you, or you meet some investors and boom, you got it's all going through the roof. That's not how it works. Success looks like this. It's a steady climb, sort of on a staircase. And the important realization is you are already on that staircase and it's leading you somewhere that you don't even know where that is. When we founded this company, we got projects from the weirdest places, from somebody I met 3 years ago here at Upfront and talked to 5 minutes. And then that person calls and says, hey, I got a project. We met 3 years ago. So just be aware that whatever you're doing, it's always leading up to something, and you're sort of planting the seeds now, and you don't know what they're going to turn into, but you're going to benefit from them later, from what you do now. And then the last one is very obvious as well. That GIF is hideous, so I'm going to skip it. Social media is important. You're building an online character. People Google you. Your social media profiles are much more telling than a CV or something. So we invest a lot of time in social media. Some of you might have seen the blog post or the Snapchat or the Instagram or the Twitter or the Facebook or the Tumblr. We spend a lot of time posting there because it has a business value for us. It makes us relatable. It makes us approachable. So it gives people a feeling for what it's like to work with us. And that is very important to us. And we learned in the beginning, we obviously didn't have any references. We didn't have any projects that we could show. But we learned that doesn't matter that much because, yes, people hire you for your references and for your projects. But there's another factor that is very important, and that is sympathy. People also hire you because they want to work with you because they like you. And social media has tremendous potential of putting yourself out there, making yourself visible, and being a likable person. So be nice to people. That's basically it. In conclusion, that was a little bit of a counter narrative to what you usually read on Medium about founding companies and how you need to have this special bit of DNA to be an entrepreneur and all of that stuff. Take that with a grain of salt. Thanks.